Hey, welcome back. I got a story for you guys. So, this story was a long time ago. So, I was out hiking, or I was out camping with my girlfriend at the time. And, we're out camping, and I go for a hike looking for a good picnic spot. And I found this perfect spot, and this deer wanders up. Now, keep in mind, it's not hunting season. It's a national park. So, let me fast forward, or let me rewind for a second. So, we get there, and we see this altercation immediately after pulling in. This guy in this, old rundown Winnebago. He's making too much noise. He's that stereotypical asshole in the Winnebago that's drinking too much and blaring music at odd hours of the night, and, people are afraid to approach. And people, like this guy ultimately got kicked out, but turns out what that guy was doing there was worse than disturbing people, and disturbing people's, tranquility in a national park, which is, really sad, to begin with. But what he was doing was even more sad, and I found out what he was doing. So I go out for the short hike, and I follow this river, and, this river that, leads into this lake at camp. It's a very beautiful spot. And we're camped like right on the lake. It's a really great place. And this little river that runs through kind of opens up and kind of narrows down to get to the lake. And it was kind of nice. And, so this little river that I'm walking along, I found this like little open grass area. And I walk in, I see this deer. And I grab a little plant with some blueberries on it. And I put it out, and the deer starts eating it off my hand. I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And so I'm standing behind a bush, and I'm close enough to pet this deer. And, keep in mind, this is it's a very small deer. It's not, legal to even hunt it. It's a doe. So this guy's hunting does. It's illegal even during hunting season. So this guy, it's a guy in a Winnebago. He shoots the doe. Misses, grazes the other side of the doe, and shoots me in the leg. And I'm behind this, these berry bushes, these blueberry bushes. And, I'm kind of like, no, I can't make a noise, because this guy, he's not a nice guy. You already know that. And he's committing a crime. I'm a witness to it. And I didn't realize that I have to keep quiet. So, me being the former Boy Scout that I was, I had a first aid kit, a tourniquet. And I remember my first aid training. So I applied a tourniquet to my leg, because there's a lot of major arteries in your leg. That's why you don't want to shoot someone in the leg. It's lethal, So I go and I'm tourniqueting my leg, and this guy comes up and he's tracking the deer. He goes out, the deer runs off, he follows the deer. He falls, and I start, applying a tourniquet, and I realize I have to make sure there's no serious bleeding. So, and keep in mind, I've walked like 8 hours into the woods. So, 8 hours on a good leg is pretty far. On a bad leg, that's insanely far. That's 2 days. It's 2 days walk easy, because you're going to have to stop, you're going to have to rest a lot, and you're going to have to treat your wound as you go. So, luckily, I didn't get hurt too bad, but there was some serious bleeding. It was a deep flesh wound. Is what it was. And I realized that immediately. Because I looked at it. I managed to sanitize it, patch it, and luckily it didn't hit any arteries. It was a deep flesh wound, but I didn't have to remove the bullet or anything. So I go and I start making my way back to camp. And keep in mind, along the way, so there's several things I was carrying in my backpack. I had a Camelback. Keep in mind, I was on an hour-long hike. I had a water filter, and I had a few, something I bring for snacks on hikes, because they can last you a long time, especially in an emergency. If something happens to you on a hike, or you get lost, is lifeboat rations. You eat a little piece of the bar, and you're good for hours. There's a lot of energy, too, a lot of nutrients and protein. And so I had a half a pack of lifeboat rations in my bag, and I had a which are very delicious. You should really look into getting some. They're lemon flavored. Most of them, or cinnamon. I like the lemon ones. They're like lemon bars, and they don't dehydrate you. So I also had a life straw, a little filter bag for filtering large amounts of water, and I was walking along a creek, so I thought that would be a good thing to bring. I had a radio, right? So the radio led to the other person from the radio was in camp, and that radio was way out of range, especially in the woods. It was a little handheld, a little 5-watt handheld. So, you know, that radio was way out of range. So 8 hours in, and I have to, you know, make my way back, right? And keep in mind, you know, it was about noon when I left, so it's dark now. And, you know, this guy's poaching at night, you know. So I was like, I was already gonna head. I was already on my way back anyways. So, you know, it was noon when I left. It's 8 o'clock. You know, I knew I was getting back late. And I will admit, I wandered way too far. You know, it was about almost noon, actually. I wouldn't say noon. It was almost lunchtime. So I would have gotten back about, you know, roughly about, you know, probably... I've been hiking. I think I hiked way too far, to be honest. I don't even remember why I hiked that far. I would end up heading back in the dark anyways. So, you know, one of the other things I had was an emergency blanket. And it was the kind that you could turn into a shelter, if need be. So I did turn it into a shelter. Luckily, it was one that kind of camouflaged me as well. So I turned it into a shelter, and I pitched it for the night. And I tried radioing, but couldn't get through. So, you know, of course, you know, my cell phone's not working. I pitched a shelter. I grabbed some, you know, extra paracord from my bag. And I, you know, turned off the radio because it's, you know, to preserve the battery. I don't know how long I'm going to be because I'm injured and I have to make sure that my wound is taken care of. So I settle down for the night, and I get up, wake up to the sunset, the sun coming up, and the sun starts peeking through. And so I get up, I pack up my shelter, and I start making my way. You know, of course, I wanted to get some distance between me and where that poacher was, so I did that before setting up camp. And so I go and I'm making my way down the riverbank the same way I came. And, you know, I did realize that my leg was hurting significantly worse. And I was worried that it was getting infected. So I did stop, and I applied some antibiotics from my first aid kit and changed the bandages. And there was some significant pus. And, you know, of course, whatever the bullet passed through before, you know, did hurt, you know, a lot. And there was a lot of, you know, debris that it passed through before, and it did hit the deer before me. So, of course, there's some bloodborne infection as well. That was, you know, some concern. So I realized that I had to periodically work on that tourniquet. You know, so all through the night, I didn't sleep well anyways because I was hurting, and, you know, I had to constantly wake up and loosen the tourniquet and get as much rest as possible while not getting too much sleep because, you know, I had a tourniquet on. So I'm walking with a tourniquet, and I realize I need something to help support me. So I veer off from the river, and I go find some sticks, and I cut off some of the paracord and make a makeshift crutch. I grab my little sweat rag that I was carrying in my bag for, you know, wiping sweat, and I kind of put it on the top as kind of some cushioning, and put some leaves there to add cushioning, some pine needles, lay them flat and straight, add cushioning, and I start using that to provide some extra support for my leg. And so keep in mind, you know, walking with a wounded leg, a severe bleed, and I have clotting agent, and I have periodically loosened the tourniquet to allow blood flow. Eventually the bleeding did clot and did stop, and I was able to remove the tourniquet. Unfortunately, I didn't have any stitches, which is what I needed. All I could do is reapply clotting agents and, you know, reapply, you know, antibiotics periodically and change bandage as much as physically possible. So little I know, the whole time my girlfriend's concerned as all hell, and this guy got kicked out of camp the day he came that morning, you know, because he was being loud and rowdy all through the night again. And there's a reason for that. He was poaching at night and then sleeping all through the day. So the park rangers ended up kicking him out. He realized there's too much heat when they called the police, so he left. And apparently he went to a more remote place. Now, my girlfriend said, I'm my girlfriend reported me missing with the ranger station. The ranger said there's nothing we could do until he gets back, or until 48 hours. So just hope he gets back before the 48 hours. So I can't officially mark me missing until 48 hours, because they might have gone to the stores like, no, we took the same car. We shared a car here. The car's still here. He went for a hike and never came back. So she's trying to get the Rangers to start a search party, and she's saying, there's no reason he shouldn't have come back. He's a skilled survivalist. He goes on survival trips and stuff. I do have quite a wilderness background. Hell, I lived alone in the Yukon for 2 years. And ended up selling the land to the oil company and moving back to civilization. And it came down to it. It was a fun experience. It was a fun trip. And so it was a fun experience and a fun way to live for me. So I'm no stranger to the elements. So I go, and I'm starting to make my way back again. I have a makeshift crutch. I have a makeshift splint for my leg. I'm making sure that the bandages keep the bleeding to a minimum, and the clotting agent's doing its job, and I can remove the tourniquet. Keep in mind, at this point, it's 2 days later. Or it's the next day, and it's almost dark out too. A lot of the day has been taken up because I'm moving so slow, mainly because of the injured leg and the possible infection, or the definite infection. Luckily, the antibiotics were kicking in, and I did find, fortunately, some medicinal plants as well. It's not what you think. It's a lot of plants have healing properties, like aloe vera, for example, is great for. You break a branch of aloe vera off, it can treat burns very easily. So I was able to find some medicinal plants, which was really good, and I was able to use those as well. Some plants have medicinal, natural antibiotics as well that are great to use. So I was on my way back to camp, and at this point I would have been like 4 hours, but instead it's like 2 days. It's like another day and a half for me. And so when I finally make it there, I walk up and I'm filthy. It gets dark again, and I've set up camp, and I'm only like 4 hours in. If they would have started the search party, she knew my route, she knew where I was going, so there was no reason they shouldn't have walked along the river at least, or took a Argo or an ATV down the river to try to find me. There's no reason they shouldn't have, which honestly I wish they would have. But of course I get back and I join the search party, and they have a picture of me. And of course, like after all that ordeal, I'm making it back on my own. I'm I'm injured. I've been drinking as much water, but I'm out of food because, it's been 3 days now, and they're organized a search party at like noon. And I walk into the search party. I'm filthy. I stink, and my legs all, there's, flies swarming my leg and stuff, and they're just swarming the blood. The bleeding stopped, and the bandages have taken care of. But, like, it's not a good scene, and they, I smell, because of the blood, I smell, of course, and I realize that, and they, I periodically try to get the blood off, with, using the river, and, so they, so I walk into the group of search and rescue guys, and I say, hey, what's the name of the guy we're looking for? Because I realized they're search and rescue guys, and the dogs are like looking at me like, what? Because they have the search dogs, and the rangers, the ranger says, does anyone have any questions? And I say, does this guy have any survival skills? I've joined a search group, for myself, and the ranger says, no, there's no reported survival skills. Now, keep in mind, my girlfriend actually reported that I am that I've done survival trips and spent 2 years living in the Yukon. I'm not someone that's, not adapted to the wilderness, so there's insane amount of survival skills. And the ranger further reported that we're most likely looking for a dead body. considering the amount of time lost. And I'd say, I may smell like a corpse, but I'm very much alive, thank you. And he looks at me and goes, wait, what? And I'm like, that's me on the board, right? You're looking for me. And they're like, where'd you just come from? It's like, the woods? I was like 8 hours on into the woods. Like, why didn't you come back? It's like, oh, a poacher shot me. Just casually, a poacher shot me. Like, oh, shit. And they're just kind of in this moment of shock that I just walked out of the woods as they were forming a search party. And you know what the ironic part was? They reported the search and rescue team found me. They didn't find Jack All. The news media gave boast to the search and rescue team that didn't do Jack All. They didn't even recognize me when I joined the group. I smell like a rotting corpse. Come on. They tried to get me medical attention, but I was like, no, I'm not gonna freaking deal with that. You know, I'll have my girlfriend drive me to the hospital. I asked her, I was like, why didn't you tell them I had survival skills? And she said, I did. I boasted about your survival skills. And they're like, they said I had 0 survival skills and I was dead in the woods because of my lack of survival skills. I'm like, no. She's like, those assholes. They wouldn't search for you. It's like, I knew something was wrong. It's like, yeah, I tried radioing and, but the radio was dead. She says the radio on her end died too. And she kept it on the whole time. I was like, oh. It's like, you didn't grab the charger? It's like, I couldn't find the charger. I was like, oh shit. Turns out I forgot to pack the charger, but I did pack an extra battery for both radios. And she didn't know that. And she didn't know how to change the battery. So I gave her a thorough crash course and helped her get her ham radio license after that so we can stay better in communication. Anyways, they never found the guy. They never caught the guy. And the guy paid in cash to get a park pass. And they never caught up to the guy. But the guy apparently was very well known for poaching, but they don't really know who the guy is. And so, yeah. So, long story short, the guy got away with shooting me and poaching animals. And search and rescue couldn't even identify me, which... By the way, I'm not saying search and rescue is bad at their job. I'm saying that they're not expecting people to walk up behind them and join the search and rescue group to search for themselves and ask questions like, make a comedy bit about it. And keep in mind, they were assuming that I was dead. So, because I didn't show up for 3 days, and they were just forming a search and rescue team. And they did give search and rescue all the credit for finding me, even though they didn't find Jack All. It was completely politicized. I was like, oh god, no. And they didn't listen to my girlfriend at all, who stated that I have excellent survival skills and there's no reason that I shouldn't be coming back, which I did periodically turn on my radio, which I did tell my girlfriend, if anything goes wrong, turn on your radio at when the sun is highest in the sky. And she did. She left it on the whole time. I periodically turned it on and tried to call her. She left it on the whole time and the battery died. Like, you need to follow my instructions. My instructions would have been way better. And they would have probably caught the guy. They would have had the cops get him. But yeah, this guy's been, apparently well known at national parks, and his RVs, now well known. So yeah. So that's the whole thing. But I'm not saying search and rescue is bad at their job. I'm saying they didn't expect that to happen, and they were given very bad information by rangers that didn't listen. And I'm not saying all rangers are bad. I'm not saying all rangers are like that. I'm saying that some people didn't take the complaint seriously, and that ultimately led to letting a poacher get away. And that I was fine. I still am fine. And, I don't even have a scar anymore. The scars are even gone. So, it's good. Anyways, I hope you like this story, and I hope you like it, and subscribe, and I hope they catch that poacher one day. Anyways, comment down below. What would you have done?